Well, this is Dr. Mark Hitchcock welcoming you to another episode of Marking the Times. I'm here in my office, as I always am, here in Edmond, Oklahoma at Faith Bible Church. And it's a pleasure to be with you, as it is every week. And a lot of you have sent in on Facebook asking questions and just letting us know that you watch. And sometimes I'll meet folks, just out and about, and people will tell me that they kind of tune in every week and watch Marking the Times. So I really appreciate that. And again, if you'll help spread the word, if this is helpful to you, I'd appreciate that. What I want to talk about in our time today is what's something that's going on in our world today called the Great Reset. And it's all really related to the coronavirus. And the coronavirus is really surging right now. I know here in Oklahoma where I live, it's surging greatly. I know it is in many other parts of the country. There's going to be a shutdown in Chicago now, I think even more draconian than the first round. Probably a lot of places in America are going to be looking at that. I know a lot of that's happening in Europe if President-elect Biden actually becomes president. There could be a lot more of this going on, even a national lockdown again. So, we really don't know where this is all headed as far as these greater measures to kind of lock down our country. But in the midst of all this, there's something that's been called the Great Reset. And I'm sure many of you have heard about this. But just to give you a little background on this, Professor Klaus Schwab, who's the founder and executive chairman of the World Economic Forum, he's kind of said this about this reset that many of the kind of the global elites are talking about. He says the pandemic represents a rare but narrow window of opportunity to reflect, reimagine, and reset our world. So the global elites see this as a narrow window of opportunity to reflect, reimagine, and reset our world. It's being called the Great Reset. Not long ago, the cover of Time magazine had the words "the Great Reset" there. Klaus Schwab also said this: to achieve a better outcome, the world must act jointly and swiftly to revamp all aspects of our societies and economies. I want to revamp all of it, from education to social contracts and working conditions. So the global elites want to seize upon what's happened and the chaos and all of the difficulty, economic difficulty from COVID, to reflect and reimagine and reset our world. Now, I don't know, many people are saying that, look, all of this was in place ahead of time and the whole COVID virus was planned and all of this was orchestrated, to bring about this great reset. That's above my pay grade to know if that's really was pulled off or not. What we can say, I think for sure, is whether it was all planned or not, it's certainly been seized upon by people to reshape our world into this global world that people desire. Anthony Fauci, we all know who Dr. Fauci is. We've heard about him and seen him a lot on television. He wants the UN, and this is a quote from him, to rebuild the infrastructure of human existence. So they're calling for greater roles for the World Health Organization, greater roles for the UN. One article I read in the Washington Times, again, the person here is being a little bit sarcastic, but they say this: it's called Emerging Pandemic Diseases, How We Got to COVID-19. And it's presented as a scientific look at why we're where we are today with the coronavirus, and more importantly, what we can do to keep from facing such dramatic disease-tied devastation in the future. Then the writer says this: but a better title might be How to Take Over the World One Medical Fear at a Time. And I think this writer here is saying what's really taking place here and what's underneath the surface. Just another thing related to this, some of you might have heard of something that's out there now called a COVID-19 immunity passport. So to travel, to move about the world, you're going to have to get a COVID-19 immunity passport along with your regular passport. That's going to either show that you're antibody positive or that you've taken the vaccine. And it's going to limit travel of people who don't have this immunity passport. And so again, it's just more control and more globalism and the government seizing more control over people's lives and limiting freedom in a greater way. Just yesterday, today is the 13th of November of 2020, but just yesterday, U.S. Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito was speaking to a group at I think it was the Federalist Society. But he said this: he said, "We have never before seen restrictions as severe, extensive, and prolonged." And he added that the pandemic has resulted in previously unimaginable restrictions on individual liberty. And people are really people's ears are perking up because this is a U.S. Supreme Court justice saying this. He also said it's an indisputable statement of fact that we have never before seen restrictions as severe, extensive, and prolonged as those experienced for most of 2020. So people that are, observers of what's happening see this seizure of power and more restriction on liberty that's happening in the world. And again, I don't know if this was orchestrated ahead of time, but it's certainly being used and being implemented by those who want a global government. And it fits in exactly with what the Bible predicts in Revelation 13 of a global government, a global economy that's run by one man, initially by a group of 10, then taken over by the Antichrist who will rule the world. So what we see happening today is a foreshadow and a precursor to what the Bible predicts. And I think it's going to probably get much worse before it gets better, if it does get better. So we want to keep our eyes on these things as time goes along, and I'll try to bring some updates in light of this in the days ahead. Well, again, thank you for joining us again. God bless you. I hope you have a good week.